All right.
Hello, Team Anastasis. Welcome to our second Coterie. This one is coming to you recorded because Miki is actually, as you're watching this, in Napa. We are so jealous.
Poor me.
Wish I was hiding in your suitcase on that little trip.
That is for sure. That is for sure. I wish I could be. I could fit you the suitcase that I'm taking, apparently.
Oh my goodness. So today we thought we would talk about charters, and the reason that we thought we would talk about that, one, it's something that we do every year at Anastasis with our students, with your students, and we really call it a few different things. So you may have heard it called charter or constitution or code, and each class comes up with their own charter and their own constitution, their own code, to really decide how do we want to feel in the classroom, and then what do we need to do to make sure that we all feel safe and supported and keep us learning. So your kids actually do that together with the teacher in the first weeks of school. So this has happened, and they've got them hung up on their walls and they're signed by everybody, but they have a real part to play in creating their charter and naming what it is that they need right up front so that we can, as a class, meet each other's needs in community. So Miki, I thought first maybe we could just really define what a charter is for families who may not be familiar with that language.
Well, charter, we've got really kind of the history of charters, and we've had them way back in history. And the purpose was to build a common language agreement of a community, how they would live, whether it be the rights and responsibilities, who might be in authority. We try not to do so much of that here because it really is a community. But it really is so everybody has the same language of how a community operates. And then what do we do when that community doesn't fulfill those expectations? Then what do we do with that? So it was an interesting project because we often assume that everybody understands what we're talking about, or what the rule is or the expectation is, and in fact there's a lot of assumptions, and we all know what happens with that. So really to take the guesswork, and especially for those families that have teens or preteens, junior hires, high schoolers, it is really a great thing to think about maybe doing even in your family.
Yeah, for sure. I love that our kids are a part of the process, that we don't just stick them with a list of rules of, here's what not to do. And one of the things that we've been really cognizant about is staying away from the words don't or can't or not as part of the charter, and pretty intentionally, because what we know about the brain is that there's one set of words in the English language that the right side of the brain does not understand, and it's the word not, because as soon as you pair don't or not or can't with any word, instantly your right side of your brain is making that picture in its mind, and so it doesn't know how to make the picture of not. So if you say, don't think about a purple elephant, immediately in your mind, your right brain is working to make an image of a purple elephant, and you're thinking about it. And so what we know is that if we put those words in our rules, a lot of times what that ends up happening is causing kids to kind of fixate and think about that thing you've just asked them not to do, because they're painting that picture in their minds, which I always.
And it actually turns that. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly.
That's
actually
okay.
Turns that red light of what we don't want them to do and turns it into a green light that is the only thing that they want to do.
Right.
So just a parenting tip as well. If you really want your kid not to do it, don't start with don't.
Yeah, it's always great to suggest the behavior you want rather than the behavior you don't want. So, but I love that our charters, what ends up happening is they're written in very friendly language, and they're written in the kids' language, which I think is really important, that there's ownership in those guidelines that they've agreed to as a class.
It's so great because, and some of them it's really interesting, and you can tell some of the kids that are used to hearing the don't or no bullying, and so we walk them through about how they could reframe that into a positive, more of a positive. So if you don't want somebody to bully, what would their behavior be? And it's been really fascinating to help reprogram that brain thinking, rather than this is what I can't do, but wait, what should I be doing? The positive expectation. So it's been fun to see that.
What do we want it to look like and feel like, and what do we want our shared experience to be? Is really what it is. So
for sure.
We've been thinking in the event that we have to move online again, which fingers crossed, it's just smooth sailing from here on out, who knows. But in the event that we have to move online, Miki, you and I really had talked a lot about helping families form learning pods and different ways that we might do that, and talking about how hard it can be when kids are home and work is home and everything's happening at once, that you have to have some new agreements that we're not really familiar having in a family unit, because that hasn't been the shared experience up until that point. And so a lot of our the way we're living and the way that just life is structured right now is things that we've never really had to formulate plans around. And now we're faced with, how do we all exist in this house together? I know that you have experience with your family, and I, similar to mine, that with families, it's so interesting because you think that because you're all together and you raise together and you spend so much time together, that you naturally have a shared set of values and understandings around how you're going to operate. But that you and I both in the pandemic learned some things about our families that we thought were so clear, and as it turns out, weren't actually that clear, and how that causes some friction and hurt feelings and misunderstandings that maybe could be avoided if we kind of took the time with our families to create a charter.
Yeah. And you bring up a really great point, because we always have things on agreements that we will respect one another and we will trust one another, with the idea that trust and respect, everybody has the same definition. And let me just tell you that it does not. So to not assume that what does it mean for when you are respecting me? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does trust look like? To me, my husband and I have these conversations all the time, and our kids are grown, and so I ask them too. And it's amazing that they were all raised in the same house, but you go, wow, we completely missed the boat on so much of that. So hopefully this will be a help for you. And one of the reasons why this is so important for Kelly and I is because we're really working on talking more as families, bringing that into the family environment about emotions and feelings. And it doesn't, and some of you might be rolling your eyes and go, oh, great, mushy, whatever. But it really is what we're finding. And there's amazing research that if we are just aware of our feelings, and again, last week we talked about that most of us are pretty emotionally illiterate, and we talk about mad, bad, glad, sad. But there's all kinds of different emotions in there. And then if we can be able to label those more specific emotions, we can help better understand how we react to them. So this is based on a book, and we can post this activity online. I'll let Kelly do that because she's the whiz with that. But it's based on this book, and we brought it up last year at our coteries, and we started reading it and just fell in love with it. It's by Mark Burkett, who runs the Yale Center for Emotional Health. There's a chapter in it about emotions at home and how we as parents, we really are the regulators, and our kids aren't going to be able to regulate themselves or co-regulate unless we model what actually healthy emotions are. And the idea that there's no good emotions or bad emotions, all emotions were created by God, and so they're all good. It's just how we express them is where we go down the rabbit trail and we blow up a little bit. So this is a challenge. So hopefully some of you will attempt to do this. We're going to actually do it with our grown family, with our adult family, and see how that goes. They actually were pretty excited about it because we've had some trauma in our life over the last 3 years. And we assumed there were some agreed upon behavior with that when people, but the understanding of we all grieve differently and we all need space differently and we all do family differently. And now that we have in-laws and extended family now, so it is a challenge for us as well. So we're going to do this. So I will keep you updated on how that works.
How it all goes. Yeah.
But yeah. So it really is based on 3 questions, and it recommends strongly that you choose a time that everybody's kind of in their happy place.
Yeah, don't try to do this during a meltdown. That's not going to go well.
Yeah, no, not a good play. And if something happens, and
I'm just going to bring up the whiteboard so I can write on it while we
talk. Thank you. I was like, oh, what just happened there? Never mind. So it's based on 3 questions. And again, you want everybody to be calm and focused and ready to work together. And this might be a new experience and so sometimes even doing this with a family is new and it might be interesting. The idea is that everybody has a voice and every voice is equal. So the first question is, how do we want to feel in our family? And so every person gets sticky notes, and this is what I've learned has worked best. I have done this with a couple of families in counseling, and it helps if everybody has a different color sticky note or the same color sticky notes, but they put a feeling, one feeling on a sticky note. So each person gets 5, and if the kids are little, you can say 3 to 5. They recommend 5 to 8. That may be too many if you have a large family, so use that to your discretion. And then to ask everyone about how they would like to feel at home. What are the feelings everyone wants to have in your home? So for example, you might want to feel respected or loved or connected or calm or at peace. And so everybody writes their words on a sticky note, and no pressure on anybody, and no feelings are bad ones again, and have them put them on the window or the sticky or the chart paper or whatever it is that you choose to do that. And then you're going to makes a great one master list, and then you're going to find common themes. So let's say somebody has appreciated and somebody has valued. Can we choose just one? And you may not be able to. And if it causes a fight in your house because someone it's going to be a competition because someone doesn't want their sister's word to go up there because they want my word up there, put both of them up there. It's not worth the fight.
Would have been the case of family.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, choose your battle for sure.
It's my word. My word was the best word. Yeah.
Right. And the idea is if you get in a fight as you're writing the charter, it's probably not working. So right off. The idea is to really get down to about 5 feelings. So you may have some similar feelings as happy or joyful, and maybe in your home, maybe that's really meaning the same thing. Maybe sad and I don't know, sad and what's another synonym for sad?
Depressed? That's probably too strong.
That's probably too strong. We should have had, I meant to have our word wheel. Do you have yours handy?
I don't have
in your notebook? Okay.
I might.
Anyway, so you can, and we can put the mood meter actually on there with the words. Maybe we can put that up there as well, Kelly.
Yep.
So then you're going to do that, and you're going to try to get down to about 5 to 8 words. So the next question is, what can we do in order to have these feelings? So if somebody says we want calm, okay, so what in our family we need to do in our family so that there is a sense of calm. Is it reasonable to think that calm is going to be 100% of the time? No. But how is it, what are some things that we may have to change, or some things that we can put in place, or maybe that are already in place that help us feel that way? So, and each person, again, gets a voice. And it's really helpful if you can be either in a circle or around a table. So everybody has, again, the same voice, an equal voice. And then what are one or two specific observable behaviors that each family member would need to exhibit in order to have the feeling as often as possible? So what do I need to be calm, have a sense of calm? What does Kelly need to have a sense of calm? What does Bobby need to have a sense of calm? What does mom need? What does dad need? And to really hear that even a sense of calm looks differently for everyone. So you go to each person with each one of those feelings. So that's why you want to limit it to about five or eight. For example, being nice is not a real behavior. Smiling or saying good morning are specific behaviors. And again, our kids at school will say, we are respectful. I don't know what that means exactly. Give me a specific example of what respectful looks like and sounds like. And then it puts them more in that thinking mode of going, ooh, I have to think a little deeper. So, because nice actually came up, and somebody else said, to be kind. And so we had this great discussion about what was the difference between being nice and being kind. And they came up with really some great specific answers to both of those. So don't try to stay away from the generalities, because that doesn't help anybody understand exactly what it is.
Yeah, you want to put them in that right brain where they are able to picture what each of those things are. You're putting those behaviors into their vocabulary, their mindset, and giving it action that can be taken. Nice is hard to have action on, and it looks different for everyone.
It's interesting, because I was just thinking as we were talking about even calm. So I don't know what makes me calm. I mean, what if you had a member of your family that said, I don't know really what it means to be calm, or what I need to be calm. Oh, great. It sounds like an experiment. Sounds like that's what we, need to work on for the next couple of weeks. Because this is a live document. So anything you put up here is a work in progress, and it's not just done. So it would be a great thing, and it's a really healthy thing for kids and adults to go, I don't know. I don't think I've ever thought about what I need to be calm. And that's actually a regulation strategy,
right?
How we can help regulate ourselves. So if reading or laying under a tree in the shade, looking at leaves, if that helps calm me, I'm going to put that down.
Right. And sometimes it's helpful, I think, for young kids to say, well, when's the time where you don't feel calm? When not felt, because sometimes they can identify they know what they don't want, but they don't necessarily know how to change that, because they don't have that vocabulary or that emotional literacy yet. And so, and sometimes those, like, I notice words, I notice that you seem really peaceful and calm when you're under a tree looking at leaves, could be helpful for them as well, to help them identify and build that literacy up.
Yeah. And as parents, great point, Kelly, thank you. And as parents, try not to jump in with the answers. But what you could ask is, well, I've noticed sometimes that you are calm. Would you like to hear what I've seen? And invite them in rather than you driving that train. Yeah. And the other thing is, if they say, no, I want to do this on my own, great. If you need some help, let me know. I'll help you later. So those are all really important things as well, because we really do want to build that advocacy and that in kids, that we sometimes as parents take over and go, no, you're this, well, we've just shot down all of their and all of their own awareness. So try to hold back, try to keep your mouth closed, maybe wear a mask so it helps you not to talk, I guess. But yeah, those are all really important things.
Ask questions, be curious. Yeah.
Ask questions. And try not to ask yes, no questions, like is, are, try to think of how and what questions, or think about a time that you were really in a calm place, a happy place, a peaceful place. Try to rearrange some of those wording to help trigger some of that so they can come up with something. So that would be, and what you will learn from your family is just amazing. That's what I'm most excited for sure. So those are the first two. The last question is this, and what they recommend is actually that you may not even address this part until a couple of weeks or 3 weeks later, because we may not know how we're going to handle it. So feel free to leave this one blank, but you can put it up there. How will we handle conflict when it arises? And what that means basically, as much as we would love to be everything, be hunky-dory and all is right with the world and peace, love, joy, the fact is we have conflict in our families. Can you imagine? I can't believe it. Maybe it's just my family. And so to have a game plan ahead of time about how we're going to handle that conflict in our families. So it helps parents by not having to think on the spot. And I don't mean consequences. I mean, how are we going to handle it together? And it may be very specific, like we're going to address the person. We're going to actually talk to the person that has offended us or whatever it is. And so it gives you a plan of attack, for lack of a better word, moving forward, of what that might look like when we are not in our happy place.
When we're in our amygdala, not our cortex.
So you'll have to share a little bit about that, because that was our new learning today.
Our new learning today was the difference between the amygdala part of our brains, which is really the fight or flight part, where if you're in the car and somebody cuts you off and you slam on the brakes, it's your rapid heartbeat, it's the fight or flight feelings that you get in your body when there's an immediate threat of danger. Cortex is more of your thinking brain, so that's the part that ruminates and ruminates and ruminates about an event that you're worried about or you're thinking about later. And so really, when we try to handle conflicts out of our amygdala, it's not actually all that useful, because it's not really trained or prepared to handle conflict in that way.
Yeah.
Because it's all emotion and chemically driven, really.
Yeah.
That when we're in our thinking brain, then we're able to really have those conversations and do things better, find solutions together.
And it's so interesting because our amygdala was created to save our lives.
Right.
But sometimes it takes over and it goes, ooh, nothing much is happening, so I'm going to take over and we're going to send us into fight or flight, even though there is not any real threat. And so oftentimes when we have emotionally charged experiences in our families or at school or at work, our amygdala kicks in. And so those are those reactions when they are emotionally driven. And we want to keep our charter, our inner workings of our family, as much in the thinking part of our brain, which is that cortex, but it also keeps us more in the response mode rather than the react mode.
Right.
And so that's the hard part, but we'll in future weeks, we'll talk more about how to do that.
The amygdala is not very good at reasoning.
No. And here's the just be aware of this, is that your kid's frontal cortex is not fully developed, nor will it be until they're 18, 21, for some 25. So, which is where all of that reasoning and problem solving and that rational thought comes from. So don't have these high, like over the top expectations that your preteens or teens are going to be able to always be right with these conversations,
Right.
because they won't. Is
Right.
all that I'm just throwing that out there as a loving reminder. Um, one of the comments that they have is on this activity, it says, no matter how loving and supportive our environments, conflicts and uncomfortable feelings are experienced from time to time. For example, someone may yell or do something that leads you to feel unloved. What will you do? So I feel unloved.
Mhm.
What am I going to do? It goes against the feelings that we want to feel in our family. So I would go to Kelly and say, Kelly, when you yelled, I feel unloved when you yell at me. So what can we do differently?
Yeah.
So maybe it is how will you resolve conflict and repair the hurt that was caused. And that's the huge thing about this. It is about restitution and redemption and grace. It's pretty powerful, actually. I wish we had had this when our kids were younger.
Right. Yeah.
List all specific behaviors that will help everyone regroup and realign. That's the whole goal, is how can we, okay, we're in this rough spot, and the rough spot could be days, it could be weeks. It's not like it's going to be this magic wand. I wish I had Miss Amber's magic wand sometimes. It's really powerful, is all I'm telling you. And so what happened, the whole purpose though is for us, how do we regroup back to that community of love and grace and flexibility, and how do we realign with with the feelings that were mentioned in our family charter.
And be different depending on the child or the person. I'm thinking through, how that question, how will you heal the hurt that was caused? And I'm just thinking in my own family, for me, if I got a hug, all was forgiven. And my brother would that would not heal anything for him.
Right.
And so even how we respond in that moment might be different based on who we're responding to.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it could be somebody's love language could be encouraging words, or could be, the power of a note. And so writing a note of, I'm asking your forgiveness, whatever it is. So to really, it is helpful to honor everybody in your family, because we all have different ways that we go to one another, hopefully help heal hurt. Here's the great thing too, is for some, we don't know. We've never been trained to do that. It's not that we don't have the desire to do that. We just don't have the skills. So it's going to actually magnify what skills are missing in your family and in some individual people in your family, which is the powerful thing as well. I always tell parents that you may have a kiddo that says, you say, you've got to apologize to your sister. Nope. You've got to say you're sorry to your sister. Nope, not doing it. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It is not that they are being defiant. It is that they are not sorry. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, they are sorry they got caught, but they may not be sorry that they actually smacked their sister. They're forcing kids to say they're sorry is not going to help anything. And in fact, it sometimes makes things worse. Now, here's the other side of that. It's amazing how many kids will apologize, but not say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difference in words, but it's also for kids, it's also a difference in thinking. I'm sorry is an emotional feeling word. An apology really is an act. Isn't that interesting? I'm fascinated by that. And I see it actually more in boys because they're more rough and tumble a lot of times. And although I was the same exact way growing up, I would never say I'm sorry. I would, however, apologize. And so I asked actually a class the other day, and I said, how many of you find it easier to say I apologize than say I'm sorry? And about half of the class raise their hand and they go, I'm not saying I'm sorry. I'm not sorry at all that I did that. And it was really amazing. So if that's your sacred ground, if that is the hill you're going to die on, make sure you know that person. Because is it really is the apology the important piece, or is it really that I'm sorry? You can't force someone to be sorry.
Right. That changed behavior is the goal, for sure. But yeah, sometimes I know even sometimes here, we so badly want to hear those words because it signals to us resolution. Whether or not there's been resolution, it makes us feel better.
Yeah. So. And I'm sorry or I apologize really doesn't build resolution. It is, what are we going to do differently next time? Right. That actually,
Yeah, we do something here called a 5-step apology that includes an I'm sorry and owning the part that we played in it, what we're going to do differently next time.
Yeah.
And so it's really, it's naming each piece. Again, the goal being to put kids in that thinking brain rather than just the sorry and, storming off, everybody's still angry. So,
right, exactly. And it's just made it actually worse.
Right. Here's how I'm going to change my behavior for next time. Here's how I'm re-agreeing to come back to our charter and our agreement, so that we can be in harmony again. So.
Yeah.
Well.
So
go ahead.
So I was just going to say, so revisit it in a couple of weeks. How are we doing with this? Is there anything we want to change? And then they recommend depending on what's going on in your family, like our adult family, we have family dinner once a month anyway. So we would kind of just revisit it. What's coming up that we may have to be proactive. So in our family, our son, the death of our son's anniversary is coming up. That is always a little bit of an emotional time. So how can we be proactive? How can we support each one of us? I don't know if we as a group have had those specific questions. So I'm excited, actually. You're never too old to have a family charter, is what I'm gathering. And I'm excited to hear from the heart where all of us are with some of those. So, yeah.
And really.
So then it talks about, go ahead.
I was just going to say, really, a family charter shouldn't just be a document that lives on somebody's computer, or it really should be prominently in where everybody can see it, where we can be reminded of what our goals are as a family.
Yeah, and that is the recommendation, that it is prominent, because if this is what your family truly feels and believes in, then you know what? It shouldn't be in a closet. It should be on the back of a cupboard door. It should be framed. It should be out in your living room, wherever it is that you chose to write it. Because what that models for kids is, this is important. This is what we have agreed upon. And there's a picture, and you, when you download this, but for everybody to make it creative. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that everybody has a little bit of say in it, and your kids will come up with some great ideas. And then the idea being that when after a month or two or wherever, that you all sign it, because it is an agreement. It is a document that we all agree to. The other thing is when any of us, when people have a voice in making a decision, they are less likely to push back when something happens, because it was their voice. And so, and this can be, it's no longer personal between me and Kelly. It is this third article going, you know what, according to this, we have agreed on this. And what I just noticed did not fit with our charter. It's powerful language. It's no more, it takes away the accusation. It takes away that you did this. whatever. But it really does add language. It adds conversation, which our kids are solely lacking. And it really helps put a positive spin of how do we problem solve as a community.
Yeah.
So
we've seen it.
It is exciting.
We've seen it be enormously helpful in classrooms in just the way we operate as a community here. When things are not going well, it just brings us back to common language. And I think for families too, I'm the same. Like I wish that we had known to do this when I was growing up, because there were a lot of conflict probably could have been avoided. And if we had just known how each of us were experiencing the others and been more aware of what we all, we obviously had shared hopes, but we didn't really talk about what those were. And so, not to have it at the center for all of us, I think made it kind of a moving target all the time. And it wasn't always, what we had hoped that our family would be. And so we took for granted the times where it was that way. And the times it wasn't, I think, everybody was just angry at each other, frustrated. Yeah. Could have avoided some of that probably. So.
Yeah. And Brene Brown in one of her books, she talks about also, when our family is going well, which is the same charter kind of thing, when our family is going well, when it's running smoothly, what is in place? Mm-hmm. And so it's another spin on this, because it's a great way to go back and say, our family's a big hot mess right now.
Right.
What is missing? And so to compare it with this other list is another way to look at it. And it's a great thing for families, especially during pandemic when everything is magnified again, but really interesting to do some self-reflection as in your own home about when everything is going well, what's in place.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Well,
anyway.
We just got the notification that carpool is about to start. So we should wrap it up for today, but I hope that I'll share all of these, both the name of the book, Mark Brackett's Permission to Feel, I'll share that, and as well as the PDF for you to download the activity for that's just instructions in how to really lead you through creating a charter for your family. And I would love to actually know how this goes for families and what they learn as a result. So
would love to see some examples. Love it, love it, love it.
For sure.
Okay. All right.
All right.
From Napa,
yes.
I hope you all have a great week.
Oh, just soak in Napa for the rest of us, would you?
I will for sure. I will.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. We'll see you all next week.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya. Happy parenting.